flowers and bone. And they appeared to revel in freedom of every kind. I wondered what kind of women could have inspired such images. I was an undergraduate at that time, and answering that question turned out to be a much lengthier journey than I expected. And it took me to very interesting places, such as searching for texts in tropical heat in Calcutta, searching for Yogany temples in the jungles of Orissa, translating manuscripts in an unheated hermitage in the Himalayas in the winter, and also through the harrowing halls of academe. And I discovered that women had a prominent role in the founding of Tantric Buddhism, and that their practices continue today as part of the living tradition in Tibet and Nepal throughout the Himalayas. So I gathered those findings in my first book, Passionate Enlightenment, with which I think most of you are familiar. So anyway, there's that book, if you're interested in my findings on that. So I decided to do something simpler for my next project. And so I decided to document the Buddhist goddesses of India and the Himalayas, India, Tibet, and Nepal. And when I first set out on that project, I wasn't sure I would even be able to come up with enough for a pamphlet. So I set out for Nepal. I started my research on that in the 1990s, and then over time realized that I had enough for more than one book. And so the first, Buddhist Goddesses of India, which is 600 pages, was just the Indian pantheon. And then I mentioned how, what went into Nepal and Tibet, but the other volume, which is ever nearing completion, what goes more deeply into the actual pantheon in Nepal. And so that's the findings that I'll be sharing with you today. And what I discovered from the time I spent in Nepal in Newar Buddhist settings, Prajal was my guide there, his family, was that I was overwhelmed by the omnipresence of goddesses in the images, temples, rituals, and the sacred dances. And for the Newars, that is the indigenous ethnic group of Nepal. So the Newars are Buddhist in their cosmology, their ethics, their ritual practice. But goddess worship is equally central, and it is an enduring feature of their religious world, from the earliest, from the proto-historical into the historical period and into today. And so over time, I realized that goddesses reign supreme in the Newar religious universe. The goddesses may have consorts, offspring, male attendants, but when we follow reality to its core, there we find goddess as the source of all. And this sets the pattern of their social and their symbolic, their ritual worlds. So that is what I will orient you to today. So I will try to show some slides here. Prajal, you have disabled my screen sharing.
Hold on. Screen sharing. Okay, here. Okay. Thanks. You can do it right now. Yeah.
Okay. Theoretically, we're crossing our. We've been through this. Best. All right. I'm in. All right. We're in. So we'll start our story at the beginning in keeping with our theme of cosmology. And that was when the Kathmandu Valley was immersed in water. This is a view from above, and you could see that primordial, what remains of that primordial lake. So how did the lake become drained? Manjushri, the bodhisattva of wisdom, was passing over the area and saw that it would make a wonderful place for habitation. And so he paused on a mountain ridge and used his sword of wisdom to cut a cleft and drain the valley so that it would be suitable for human habitation. Manjushri is credited as the founder of the Kathmandu Valley, as it should be. But what was there before Manjushri? It was the water. It was the womb of the goddess. It was the source of creation. And so after he drained the lake, if I can zoom this, a hill arose. And on the hill, a lotus blossomed. And so that hill still stands in the Kathmandu Valley. This is the hill, and that is the stupa site. And it is understood that when the dry land, the lotus appeared, the dry land appeared, the lotus, and then the stupa is there. But the lotus under the stupa is rooted in the waters of the primordial goddess of the valley. This is the stupa representing the enlightenment of the Buddha, of all Buddhas. And here you see the lotus petals. And that is a reference to the fact that the stupa ever sits on the lotus. So the stupa ever rests in the womb and is ever vivified, nourished by the womb, the underlying waters of the cosmic primordial goddess. So when Manjushri drained the valley, one of the first things he did was sing a song of praise to the goddess. The goddess has two names. One is Guyeshwari. Guyeshwari means the mysterious goddess. And also she's known as Nairatmya. And he praised her. Exalted lady, your universal form is immeasurable and unfathomable. Mistress of all religious teaching, eternal, everlasting. O goddess, I offer praises at your lotus feet. Your incomparably subtle body pervades the universe. Goddess revealing the quintessence of all religious teaching. Your mind illuminates the cosmos in its entirety. O goddess, I worship at your lotus feet. So the primary form of Guyeshwari, you could say, takes many forms. So one is the form of the water, and the other, she has different goddess forms, but one of the main ones is as Nairatmya. She whose essence is selfless and cannot be defined, it can't be pinned to one place. What is significant about Nairatmya, one significant thing is that her body is blue. That is the color of water and of sky and of space. So you see the reference at the bottom to the water, and it's somewhat of a triangular format, which is a geometric reference to the womb as the source of creation. You see the infinite space above her, And what is mysterious about Guyeshwari? What is mysterious is how reality constantly appears and dissolves in this very mysterious way. And so in Nepal, they noticed that the sky is water. And so there's this endless transformation from, the sky, which seems to be, empty space, and then it congeals into clouds, and the clouds precipitate. There's water, there's rivers, there's all living things. And so the process of transformation itself is mysterious. And all that takes place within the womb of the primordial goddess. So she is the mistress of mysteries. We will return to her. The Kathmandu Valley itself is understood as a mandala. A mandala is a sacred space. So there's mandalas on different levels of reality as the pattern of the, within the human body, the human psyche. It can be the universe itself, a ritual pattern, and also it can be the land itself of a certain area can be seen as a sacred mandala. Nepal is the mandala of the Yogany mandala, a mandala of 5 yoginis, of which Nairatmya is one. This is one of the yoginis. So the type of the yogini is, a yogini is a fully enlightened being whose purpose is liberation. So she's a source of transforming power, of enlightenment, of liberation. Not really a maternal nurturer per se. And so the idea that the Kathmandu Valley is a mandala of these 4 or 5 major yoginis means that the valley is saturated with their sacredness, their energies. They're very potent energies of transformation. And there's major temple sites where the Newars perform rituals, devotional rituals, also very esoteric rituals to tap into the powers of those yoginis for transformation. And the temples are usually on hilltops with a vast view of the valley, because that's where the goddesses like to reside. They like that open space and, the beauty and the purity of the air for spiritual transformation. So you can see in the iconography the intensity and the idea that it's not really a maternal nurture, but it's really pouring their blissful energy into the world to be used for transformation, spiritual transformation through yogic practices and esoteric ritual, as well as dance. So the expression on their face represents that kind of that passionate, that intensity that I saw in the paintings at the beginning of my search. Kind of staring deep into reality and seeing reality as it is. So this is Vajrayogini. Sorry, one of the yoginis of the Vajrayogini of the Kathmandu Valley, and you see that her body is red, bright red. That is a prototypically female color in Nepal. It is the color of the blood of birth, the fire of transformation. So it's associated with creation and especially transformation. It's a very potent kind of electrical energy that is called in Nepal as well as India Shakti, which means the female power of creation, the female power of transformation. And so you see this very fiery deep red persona that she has. She's brimming with this life force. Shakti is very concentrated. It flows throughout the living world as a source of life, but it's especially concentrated in goddesses and in human women. And so on any given day, and it's also, so on any given day in Nepal, you will see, and also parts of India, about 80% of the women are wearing red, whether they're at work or whether they're going, especially if they're going to worship, and then a little bit of green to kind of tame it out and kind of, cool it down, balance it out. So that can help you understand the pervasiveness of red. So this is a festival day in Nepal, you see, and women gathering in front of it. This is a day, a women's festival where the women gather at different temples and in front of sacred trees. You can kind of see the tree there. And then you see one woman dancing and her clapping her hands and some are singing. And that ritual goes on all day and is televised live. So I thought they have their priorities right in Nepal. But the point is to get a sense of what that red means. This is the shrine where the waters of Guyeshwari well up in an underground spring and emerge in this spot. This is the opening to the underground spring. And so people come here, women especially, people come here to get some of the sacred water to make offerings. It's a very mysterious spring. No matter what is offered into it, it never changes depth. And so you see women offering lamplight, offering flower petals. It's kind of a dynamic scene, wearing the red bracelets and the glittering gold that represents Shakti, their possession of Shakti. And you see the red powder. And red powder, or different shades of red, is the blessing substance par excellence in the Newar religious world. So that powder available in the market is used in religious rituals as an offering and to sanctify and empower persons, ritual implements, to transmit blessings and to transmit that living female force in sacred contexts. So it's rice flour, often rice flour dyed. So we've done red. So you could see a silver vessel here, and then it's a golden lotus. So those are, and then the opening there to the underground spring. And so the vessel is another icon of the primordial womb. The lotus also resonates as the female birth source. So this is the shrine to Guyeshwari, to Nairatmya. See offerings, lamplight, and there's quite a steady, eggs is one of her preferred offerings too. So this kind of worship goes on mostly morning and evening are special times for that. And then women wear red, often to worship. And then this is the pujari, or this priestess that's tending the shrine this day. And I have seen very few exceptions where a woman would not wear red on the day she's tending a shrine or being the pujari. Because, so you see here, now you can understand more this equation of the female, of the reddened rice powder, the red offerings, the red, what she's wearing, the red bracelets, the red powder tika on her forehead. And red and yellow flowers are especially beloved of Guyeshwari. This is another image of Vajrayogini, and to give a sense of her dynamism. So she's understood the goddesses move throughout reality in a very dynamic way. You could say reality is their dance. They're very joyous, they're very blissful. They're inviting humans to join their joyous, their blissful dance. And the flames are the flames of their wisdom that's burning up delusion in their presence, that burns up any negativity, that their mind is totally purified. So this is a beautiful combination of the blue and then, the red. So the blue is the source of creation as water, as space, and then the red is the source of life, the life force. She's often shown in a very dynamic dancing pose. That's one of my favorites. That conveys her kind of radiance, her divinity, and her red intensity. So because she's a dancing goddess, she's shown in a dance pose. Prajal's brother painted this. I see I need to get my, anyway. So there's pictures, different poses of her dance around the edge. And so one of the ways to commune with Vajrayogini during rituals, in certain ritual settings, is to do a dance, to channel her presence through the dance. And that is the kind of dance that Prajal grew up learning and now transmits from his global base in Portland, Oregon. And so the purpose of the dance is to channel those energies, those divine energies. There are dances of male deities as well. We're looking at the female deities, the primary deities. But the female deities do have consorts. So the staff represents that she has a consort. She's not celibate. The Yogany is not a celibate ideal. So he's tucked away somewhere, till she's ready to dance with him. So they have at once this kind of cosmic significance as the dance of reality, the divine significance as the goddesses who are there to bless and heal, and then the human significance as the divine essence of human women. So in Newar Buddhism, men can learn the dances of female deities, women can learn the dances of male deities, but in a ritual setting where they're actually embodying those deities, then typically men dance the part of male deities and women seamlessly dance the part of female deities. Typically. So that's Helena, the amazing dancer of Dakinis. So you can see the resonance between the art and the dance. That's a very intense dance. It takes a lot of power to do that, channel that energy. I didn't learn that one. It takes a lot of power.
You did that dance.
Well, I didn't really learn it. I mean, I did not learn it, is what I said. I didn't say I never tried it. So I most definitely did. Yeah, you're right. I really tried harder than I credit myself. But I felt more drawn to the dance of Nairamya. It was more within my range. So continuing now with the female cosmology. So we started out with the source of creation, the cosmic womb, the primordial source, water, space. Now we're turning to Earth, Mother Earth. You know, Earth seen as our mother, of course, in a goddess culture, definitely seeing the Earth as mother. So the Kathmandu Valley is very verdant. So I wanted to show you that it's wonderful for agriculture. The Newars can grow, you know, the food they need. So there's a lot of abundance there, but they've developed this stepped farming to make maximum use of the hillsides and, you know, the arable soil, and then also an interestingly kind of vertical construction style. So you get very thin vertical, the traditional homes are very thin and vertical so as not to take up that precious land. So I need my, oh, okay. So this is the Newar vision of Mother Earth, Vasundara by name, whose name means flow of abundance, flow of blessings. And I think her color, her golden, warm golden hue conveys that sense of harvest, richness, of course, gold coins, gold itself, the immutable nature of gold. And the idea that she's a lady who pours forth abundance, and that includes the rain, brings the rain for agriculture. So you see this conch shell under her foot, and that expresses the idea that the rains she will assure the rains come for agriculture. And she typically has 6 arms in the Newar view. So let's look at what she's holding. So she's the source of food. And then in a way, you know, Mother Earth is the bestower of all that is needed for humans to flourish. And so she's the source of food, which is the primary source of wealth, as well as of the leisure after the harvest, to study, to do art, to do ritual. There's a high point of the festival year right after the harvest season. And so Vasundara is praised as the supreme benefactor of the world, like a wish-fulfilling tree. Praises to the jewel mine, treasure chest, array of jewels, rain of glory, jewel garland of many colored gems. Glorious lady who creates a stream of treasure. So to go into her iconography, I think you could see it clearly here. So she has 6 arms. So she has 3 faces, one to go with each pair of arms. And so in one hand, she's holding a sprig of grain that some people mistook for an ear of corn, but no, it's rice, because grain is the staple crop. It's the staple of life. And in Nepal, rice is made into many, many things that we would use wheat for, like, you know, pancakes, baking, soups, gravies, everything. Then this hand is held open palmed, spreading divine blessings. She's holding a rosary in this hand and a text in this hand, showing that the purpose of abundance is to have time to pursue knowledge, to have time to meditate, to have time for creativity and ritual and religious practices. Newars honor her as Mother Earth, the source of life and nurture, but also source of knowledge and wisdom. I would say that she's the most actively worshipped, let's move on there, goddess in Nepal. This image of her on the hill, Swayambhu Hill, receives offerings, prayers, and homage day in and day out. And I think it's important. So this is actually one moment in this kind of string of, offerings. It's kind of a flow that is periodically removed and cleaned, and it's a very dynamic situation. So we caught it at this moment. But I think it's important sometimes to see these statues as they are in situ and to realize that they are, what they are like in the practice setting and not in that very, kind of ambient lighting museum setting on a pedestal. And there you see the use of red powder, which is pervasive. So there's an annual festival of Vasundara that comes right after the harvest season. And so I wanted to show you that harvest, the kind of golden, how her golden color reflects the harvest. And so there's the harvest, and the umbilical cord of the crop being tied off. And this, the sifting of the grain, and to show that women's hands are present in this process, like all of Nepal, the streets, the courtyards just become this kind of golden blur, and the countryside a golden blur during the harvest season. And so that evokes the sense of Vasundara. The lady who reigns, filling the storehouses with plenty. So after the harvest, there is an annual festival to Vasundara, and it is obligatory that every community hold it, although individual participation is voluntary. So this is a Vasundara temple that's been probably repainted for the festival, and everyone will worship Vasundara on this day, but there are certain women that decide they will embody Vasundara in the ritual this year, and they're known as Vratanis. I'll just say, I tend to use that word, I don't know what else to say to distinguish them from other participants. They take a vrata, a vow. So they will wear the color of Vasundara to show that they are embodying her during this rite. And so they're lining up at this temple, bringing their offerings, and there's a lot of harvest products in the harvest. The Vasundara annual festival, or the Vasundara Vrata, is considered to be essential to communal well-being. And so it's performed at numerous temples, several sites each year. And the Vrata lasts for several days, and so the women maintain a kind of state of ritual purity, bathing, only eating certain things for the duration. So that, and on that day, they don't wear jewelry during the rite because they're preparing to channel the essence. So many wear that color. And let's look at some of the offerings. So some of the offerings are particular to Vasundara, such as the red and yellow flowers, but the sheaf of newly harvested rice is essential as the emblem of their divine counterpart. So each woman becomes kind of a living embodiment of Vasundara, holding her sprig of rice, and then bringing what other offerings they have. So this is a I won't say typical, but there's a lot of, okay, this offering plate, which this woman was very kind to let me photograph. So she has pastries, which are dyed yellow, probably saffron. She has cloth to donate so that for clothing for Vasundara, a little probably ghee lamp, wicks, red and rice, red and rice yellow. So this kind of red and yellow that prevails, puffed rice. So in this, and then there'll be fruit and vegetables in the offering. So honoring the goddess of the harvest. This woman has made jewelry. So out of rice flour, she made a necklace, and she's bringing red and yellow cloth, other things. But some of the women will make the rice dough jewelry. So this is not a Rotany, but she's clearly, this woman is very, as a rice farmer, it's important that she pay homage to Vasundara on her ritual day, on her annual day, festival day. This is the main image of this temple, hidden under all the offerings. And so you can, if you can look, you can kind of see the dough jewelry that people have offered, pastries, cloth, flowers, and of course, it doesn't get small again. Oh yes, it does. So a lot of flowers and grains, bananas, fruits. So this, I would say that this, then you can, it's a little hard to find her face. It's peeking out somewhere. But this would be completely filled with offerings probably every half hour, and then be cleared by the couple that was maintaining the shrine that day, which is a farmer couple. So to get it at that moment, because you can see there's a lot of offerings, but that represents the harvest abundance. So I wanted to touch briefly on the ritual during which the women identify with Vasundara. So this was a family, 3 generations. This is the mother, and they're getting their cloth ready. This is her mother. And so when I was there, this is Modi Maya. I asked her, "Oh, have you brought your mother?" And she said, "No, my mother brought me." And I was like, "Oh, yes, that would be the case, wouldn't it?" So a little Western presupposition there. And then they also brought several of Modi Maya's daughter. And so I love this scene of how this ritual skill, of this ritual artistry, is passed down from generation to generation as they prepare these beautiful offering, these plates of offering, and actually that they will offer to themselves when they identify with Vasundara. But it's very beautiful how their many hands went into that, and that was their beautiful offering plate. Prajal could go into each element of that and say what they, somewhat what they mean and why they're there, but we're getting big picture today. So now they're lining up for here overlooking a rice field, and they're spreading a yellow cloth. And on the yellow cloth, they will draw the geometric diagram. I hope to get a better shot of that.
Sometimes that is also the mandala of the Vasundara too, yellow cloth.
Yeah. So, but also they're drawing it with red powder. They're making a diagram, right?
Yeah.
Or is it printed sometimes?
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're making the base of that mandala with the red powder, and then they'll invoke, there you can see someone. It's very bright that day. So creating the mandala, and then they will they've gathered the offerings, which they will make to themselves as they'll pile it on the mandala. So this is a place where that was a ritual is taking place on a somewhat larger scale. So there were, I think we counted about 200, maybe 250 women at this one. There were dozens of women at the other. And so they're all through all the courtyards of this temple complex. On the last day they were, right? So this is nearing the end. So at this image at this temple, I wanted to point out a key element here, but there is a yellow string that's wrapped around the hands of this, it's very hard to say, the hands of this image of Vasundara, and that yellow thread, which represents her blessings and carries her blessings, will be distributed and passed through the hands of every woman participating in the rite. And it's a massive undertaking. So it has to pass through all of their hands. So at the high point of the ceremony, they will all be connected with Vasundara. So the women are the performers of the rite, and then there are male assistants and attendants. So here they are getting ready for that key moment. A lot of the offerings have been made, and now they hold that, and they hold the sprig of rice at that key moment. And the invocation is, now I am Vasundara, blessing the world. I don't know which slide is better, I think. Maybe that one. No, that's good. So it's all very fast moving. So do you hear me turning my pages? Do I need to be quieter? Never mind. All right. So after the vrata, this is one of the vratanis who was finished. So afterward, I just asked some of them why they did it. And the first thing they all said was to benefit all living beings, because they're channeling the presence of the goddess into the world. And then some of them I pressed, oh, really? And they said, well, they were also purifying their karma, any negative karma accumulated in the previous year. And then some of them said to increase good fortune, to increase happiness, sukha samvriti. And so those who do the right can expect an increase in good fortune. But that's not the primary purpose of the rite, because they're channeling the altruistic goddess. And so they're aligning themselves with the altruistic spirit of the goddess who seeks to benefit all living beings. And so even after that rite of 2 days, I feel like she's looking very fresh and, you know. So they see the blessings of the goddess flowing through them, through their families and through them, but into the world. And so after the Vratani portion, which lasts 2 days, women, some who've performed a vrata and some who've not, celebrate with a procession. And here the Vratanis from different temples are joined by other women, and the procession line is beginning to form. And so the women process to a series of sites, and then they make an offering at each one. And so the order of this procession, and I'll convey that and what it conveys about their cosmology. So the offerings that the women made determined their place in line. So you see they're dressed alike, they're carrying a similar offering. So they'll, the offerings are built up at each site in a specific order. So here they set forth in bare feet, and the procession route, which was planned well in advance, took the women to 45 temples and shrines throughout the city. And Prajal and I joined them, but we were not bare feet. So each shrine had an image of Vasundara and then a cleared space. And the first offering was some grains of rice, some grains of unhusked rice. And the symbolism of the procession explicitly draws an analogy among grain, women, and Vasundara. Without rice, there is no life. And without women, there is no life. Further, without women, there is no rice. For women are intimately involved in rice agriculture, and they preside over the refinement of rice into its usable forms, its cooked and baked end products. Women's hands are in evidence at every step, drawing forth its life-giving capacities. Thus, who but women's hands could offer the rite the rice that forms the core, the base of the mandala. And then the first offering after that was a large leaf plate about 5 feet in diameter, made of leaves stitched together with bamboo pins. So 45 of those, right? So each place had that as the base of their mandala. And the next offering was a cup full of rice. So dozens of women offered cupfuls of rice. So that's a brass pot. You see the cup. You can envision how heavy that would be to carry. And it was replenished along the way. Clearly, there are not 45 cups of rice there. And so for the women carrying these pots, I would say performing this procession was a feat on many levels, including sheer physical endurance, because the route took 8 hours to complete in the hot sun and walking barefoot. And so a total of 800 women processed. We finally had a chance to stop and count toward the end. So women offered rice in its various stages. Yeah, that went on, and people leaned out of the windows and lined up along the way to, enjoy this auspicious sight. So rice is offered in all its forms of refinement, such as freshly harvested, then husked, fried into pancakes. Oh, that's making me hungry. And baked into orange and yellow pastries. And molded into rice flour sculptures, like these fish. And these little lions, snow lions, I guess. And then young girls participated, bringing up the rear. I estimated about 100, and they offered pennies and candy and were really pretty adorable and pretty impressive. And so after several hours into this procession, I asked one if she wasn't tired. And she said, we have to be patient, like Vasundara Devi, like Goddess Vasundara. So I was amazed at how fresh the women looked 6 hours into the procession, to see them perform this physically demanding undertaking, walking barefoot in the hot sun, carrying their often heavy loads, with no sign of complaint or fatigue, is a tribute to their resilience, a strength capable of sustaining the world. And the women, glowing women, dignified in bearing, draped with shining jewelry, holding heaping baskets of food and grain, are indeed living embodiments of the goddess of abundance and well-being. So at each site, the women handed their offerings to men. So you see the female hand and then the male hand receiving it and forming it into mandalas. And so first the cups of rice create the mound, and then the different agricultural, that was with women's hands, and then men received the agricultural products, the cook products, and arranged them into mandalas. And there's, there's pickled eggs, or I guess ginger curried eggs. Oh, I love those. And, spicy beans and little meats, a lot of different things that they've offered. And so their offerings are arranged. Oh, also chocolate, necessary, little cups of alcohol. So the offerings are arranged into a pattern that represents balance and perfection, wholeness, kind of cosmic perfection. It is a symbol of the perfect world, created through communal cooperation and participation, and specifically the cooperative, the harmoniously interwoven efforts of men and women. And then these mandalas that they create are then used to feed the community. So it's very symbolic. And then they even make the letters. It probably says Om Swaha Vasundara Devi, or Vasundara Devi Sharanam. I go for refuge to, glorious Vasundara. Each letter is a cookie that has been individually cooked. That was actually brought by high school age people. So the communal effort is both symbolic and performative. And then at each site, there was an elderly woman sitting closest to the mandala or next to the Vasundara image, as the case may be. And with her relatives arrayed around her and her female relatives closest. And so the mandala was built before her, reinforcing the theme that the women of the community are the living representatives of Vasundara. And then, the juxtaposition of woman and goddess expresses that it is women who channel her divine blessings into the world. And I thought the resemblance between this woman and the statue is just remarkable, but that is the intended. So. Okay. So Prajal, do I have time for, I started late. Should I finish with my final maybe
Sure.
10-minute piece?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, means we're free. So if you want to go more on,
Well, I don't need to, but I will conclude with my final.
Okay. Okay.
Kumari. I also had, there's also men along the route kind of assisting in that. I don't know what happened to that slide in my transition. So, but men were clearly part of this and supporting and spraying the women with water along the way and refilling things along the way and expressing this gender equation that this is the world they're creating together. That the energy of the goddess is channeled through women with the cooperation of men into communal well-being. So, all right, so now I'm pivoting back to the female Buddha Vajrayogini, and this is clearly a different archetype. So Vasundara is the maternal, the nurturer, Mother Earth, and then clearly the Yogany type is tantric, is very dynamic, transforming. And what I wanted to talk about in the third and final part is how the energy of another way that this female cosmology is expressed in Nepal. And this is that the tradition of the what is known as the living goddess, but there are many living goddesses, but this is the one that's famous, is the young girl that embodies the supreme goddess. She's known as the Royal Kumari. And so for Buddhists, she embodies Vajrayogini. For Hindus, she embodies Durga. And so the Shakti, the third eye, represents her omniscience while she holds this role. And while she holds this role, that she embodies the goddess from the time she is recognized as an embodiment initiated until she reaches puberty is the traditional practice. And so she lives in a special house, the Kumari Chen. Oh, that's the Hindu goddess that she embodies. And you could kind of see that. I don't know, there's an intensity there. So when we have seen the goddess, Prajal's seen her many times. We visited her house, we attended her festivals. She does have a very divine manner about her, very intense, non-childlike manner about her. This is the house of the Kathmandu Royal Kumari, and the palace is right across the street. And so you see the windows. She can come to these windows and give darshan or give the blessing of sight. People can enter or is that Bhaktapur Kumari Chen? Anyway, I No, I think it might be Bhakta Kumari. Anyway, so people can go into the courtyard and then can give her offerings morning and evening. Then she has daytime things. But as the royal Kumari is kind of is connected to the well-being of the king and the country, kind of prognosticator. She has an annual festival, and I think they're still having it. The last, I mean, it's a major event that brings Buddhists and Hindus together. So, oh, there she is giving darshan at her window, and just her simple everyday clothing. Obviously, always wears red, but now you understand that top knot of a goddess. But they're on a ritual when she's in the, like her chariot festival, where her chariot is brought on procession through the streets. She has very elaborate, divine ornaments that she wears, and very radiant. Now you understand the red, and then the gold is kind of the radiance of that Shakti. And that procession takes many hours, and she's very, I don't think I could be that dignified for that many hours. I'll be right back.
Yeah, Kumari Festivals, normally it's in the September, October, or September, before they have a, whole week of processions and a huge chariots and thousands of people get together for this festivals in Nepal.
Oh, my computer's plugged in. Okay, so I just want to say a little bit about the Kumari. Because the Kumari is the supreme living incarnation of female divinity in Nepal, because she holds that role year round when she's in that role. And there's not only a royal one, there are several other permanent Kumaris. So the Royal Kumari is chosen from a Buddhist family. And this, I love this picture of after she's installed, she's always clothed in red, the color of Shakti, and the divine female power, and has the third eye of omniscience. And her feet do not touch the ground. So the caretakers know how to, there's a special family of, I would call them priests, that know what regalia she has to wear for the different ritual occasions. So that's a Kumari carried by her father. She doesn't, her feet don't touch the ground. So they usually put sometimes a red cloth or white cloth, because, the goddess, her feet won't touch the ground. So this is, anyway, the royal, okay. Her temple, this is the Taleju temple, which houses one of her embodiments. And traditionally, that was the highest building. No one could build a building higher than the Taleju temple. But I don't know, Prajal, if there's any hotels that are taller than that now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they are, right?
Back in old days, not allowed to build bigger than the temple. So
yeah,
even in a courtyard, not allowed to build the bigger than the courtyard temple. So now,
that's yeah. So that was, but for many centuries, that was the main one. That was probably built in the 17th century. So for a long time, just to show the reverence in which she's held. Oh, she's so beautiful. So that was the previous Kumari until 2018. And she always had this smiling demeanor. And okay, I'm not going to say more about her right now. But the Kumari is very essential to, I would say, cultural identity in Nepal. And so there's many places like Kumari Internet Station and the Kumari Art Gallery. And I mean, you could get a game zone and you can get a lot of Kumari merch, wouldn't you say, Prajal? Like the Kumari puppet and
Yeah, Kumari puppet.
Kumari posters. And I don't know what, I mean, probably now drinking mugs, except they don't usually, I mean, they're missing a chance, a merchandising app there. So the point being, she's a very widespread presence, it's an important presence. And then during her annually, she does a chariot procession and hundreds of people, thousands maybe, line the procession routes, gather getting ready. And so she will emerge back, her houses over to the left. So when she comes forth in her chariot, she'll come around this area and then go through the city streets. And it's quite a crush of people. And they wait for hours, and we waited for hours with them. Right. And so, you know, to see, because when she comes out, it's just so amazing. So the one year we went with Helen, 2007, there was quite a delay. She didn't come out until after sunset, but it's quite magnificent. So here's her house, and there's the royal, the palace, and then the king and dignitaries, the American diplomats, were lined up waiting for her to come. You know, it was rather a long wait. There's a lot. It's a very complicated ritual. And then her chariot's brought through the streets, and it's a very dynamic scene. That's the best photo I could get of that particular, that was probably her. So I'm just going to go on. So the one thing I did especially want to mention and close with is that also during the annual Kumari Festival, that all young girls embody the goddess. And so there's a festival, a Kumari festival, where young girls are dressed as the goddess within their family's means and taste, and brought to a temple where they will receive offerings as goddesses. And so this was a source of great delight for me. This year, I think there were 250. But sometimes, didn't you say there were 600? So they, you know, gathered under canopies, and there were a lot of rituals going on. But I took pictures of some of them. Oh yeah, lining up. So I really love to see how that's a precious girl, how they were dressed. So of course they're red. Oh, I should, Prajal and I, they were so precious. And so this is actually, this Kumari worship is somewhat misunderstood in the West because we do not have it, but I found it to be a very uplifting ritual because the girls are honored. And look at the red toenails and the little anklet. I mean, just all these little, whatever little like red details or little goddess details, flowers, or that they can, it's better than Halloween. And so the women's who were sponsors, that year, they'll make the first offering. So the senior women on a kind of a ritual way will go and give each girl a little penny, and then probably a little rice, and then rinse her feet. And so this is the beginning of the worship. Give her a tika with the red, powder on her forehead. And then everyone present made an offering to every girl. And I estimated that, let me see, that year,
200, 300.
800 people came to make offerings. And so that means that there were 360 girls. Remember that the announcement said that 360 girls had participated. So that means that 800 people brought 360 offerings for each girl. And it took a long time. They were sent a meal from the Kumari house. Very creative. So they were given clothing, school supplies, dresses, candy, a lot of candy, juices, cookies, and they had to sit there. It took many, many hours. And so it was this very interesting I mean, they are honored. This is one of the central places, but I've been places where even they would gather in a home or in a courtyard during this festival, and the girls would receive, their feet would be washed, people bow at their feet, people honor them as the next generation of goddesses. And I would say that each one was just more adorable than the last. Wouldn't you say, Prajal?
Amazing to see. That's all like, young girls.
Oh, I know.
And very patient also. They are very patient too.
That's the key. Yes.
Not like running around and do lots of things, but they are very patient.
Right. Right. It is a lesson in itself. Oh, I just loved all the different. Oh, this girl, she was styling. She was just styling.
One of my friends.
There,
It's one of my friends started that one. Yeah.
I think you might have gotten that picture. But the thing about this is that it was a very dynamic photographic subject. Like there is a ritual happening. Oh, she was so cute. Wow. Oh, I love her. So then it gets to be a question. Who is the most adorable Kumari of all? I mean, so young, right? Just little dress and little, maybe you. Maybe you. No, we have the most adorable Kumari of all. Okay, that's it. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll be a little bit open for the question and answer.
Yeah, if people have questions, I surely
If
breezed
it's
over
okay,
a lot of topics.
Is that okay? So you can take off this sharing screen. Oh, good. Okay. So, yeah. Anybody have a question? There's also some. You may want to look at there. There's a chat. It's some.
Oh yeah, Vajrama. Yes, honoring
Vajrama,
attention.
Alex,
Yes, they're talking about the Kumari. Yes,
so,
yes. It's a wonderful ritual, and even just for me as being grown up, but it was completely putting me in this position of, oh my gosh, what we're lacking. We need that ritual. Ritual creates reality, and I was vicariously experiencing that honor and thinking, this is great. Oh, all right. See you, Brenda King. All right.
yeah. Anybody have any questions? So please, unmute yourself
So
and
someone
raise your
asked,
hand.
well,
Yeah.
someone has questions in the chat I can address. So should I do that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so yours is the one I was looking at, Alex. So he said, are self-worth and self-esteem higher among Newar females? Absolutely. So I only touched on the social practices, which I go into in my book. So I'm saying Newar Buddhist specifically, all right? Not Newar Hindu, because that's a different cultural stream, right? So sometimes you hear about like this menstrual seclusion and things that's a Hindu practice. It's not I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like this is completely the Newar Buddhist universe. So they manage the household. The husbands give the money to the wives to manage. The wives are the embodiment of Vasundara in the home. So when they're brought into the home, they're led in and led to all the, like, the kind of the contracts. I mean, sorry, the wealth, what we would call like bank statements, right? All that kind of thing. And then said, you are now in charge of this, bless us as Vasundara in the home. So there's all these social practices around this that no major decision of any kind would be made without the wisdom. And I didn't even, you don't get that strange thing that you find in some cultural contexts where there's maybe a female goddess, but the women, I mean, they just have their dignity. They are, I mean, you can imagine, they're just grounded in this reality. That's the reality. So there's no like menstrual taboo. There's, I mean, in a negative sense, there's no, it's interesting. There's a lot I could go into. quite a bit about that in my book manuscript. All right, let's see what else. Oh, of course, there's a special procedure to recognize the reincarnation. So there are certain marks of the other books that they have the 32 marks of a Buddha and the subsidiary marks of a Buddha. So certain marks like arms like elephant trunks, right? And like teeth like eyes like load. I mean, it's, and then also she must have the dignity, the bearing. Yes, there is a process, absolutely. Oh. So someone has a question about the Vasundara ritual and what kind of text or preparation. So the ritual itself is presided over by a priestly couple. I didn't really mention the priestly hierarchy. So as a tantric ritual, I mean, it has an esoteric dimension and it closes with a fire offering at the end. And so a male and female priest work in concert. So the male, I think, probably, if I'm recalling, feeds things into the homa, and the guru, and the guru ma takes the red powder and takes it and distributes it. So the women do these kind of take care of this female half of the equation, which is distributing blessing substances, liquids, also alcohols in the esoteric context, but here rice flour. And then the males also, preside over the homa fire, read certain mantras and use the vajra. So they work in concert. I thought that would be too much detail, but I say I have a discerning audience that, inquiring minds want to know. Every answer raises new questions. Yeah, when's my book coming out? There's no text. I think I was seeing if anyone else.
Miranda, we could also just raise our hands and ask.
Yeah, go ahead. I can't see Prajal. Can you see everyone? I can't.
Oh.
Yeah, someone, I mean, you can't see everyone on the screen at once, but sure.
Rajwal, if you're talking to us, we can't hear you. You have to unmute.
Yes, it is. I can see everybody actually. Best way to answer the questions, the raise the hand and unmute yourself and ask the question. Maybe that way it's much better.
Okay.
How that work?
Sure, or maybe speak or.
I'll ask two. One that a few people have is there a way that we can access this recording to watch it again or share it because it's so special? And my other question is wondering how life is organized there to allow so much time for so much preparation. And it's not just one festival, it's weekly or monthly as well as daily, and our lives here are not at all organized for that.
Wow. Yeah, it's priorities, isn't it?
Priority, also the dedications, your motivation. So, and also if you work too much, then you stress. So they have a more festival involved with that way. So you take away your stress and take away your whatever that you're dealing with the other world. It's making joy with the community and the happiness. That's what they created with the festival. So it is more dedication and motivations. So
yeah. And then a lot of rituals do peak right after the harvest. So there's this huge there's the Vasundara and
I went to the Nepal last times. They have a 950 people joining in the Vasundara Bhattas every month. They have getting more and more. So 900 people.
That's right. It could be every month. That's wow.
That's very beautiful pictures of the 900 people.
Yeah, I wanted to add that, but I would need it. I would add it to my talk. So next time, Prajal.
Yeah.
As you know,
Okay.
even just making it was not a joke.
Mitch, you want to say, ask your question?
Someone, I think Mitch has been raising his hand.
Yes, thank you. Two questions. First, are the yoginis, the 5 yoginis, consorts of the 5 Buddhas that are in
Oh,
Kathmandu?
so
And the second question is, to what degree are these goddesses shared between the Hindus and the Buddhists? Since we know that the Newars in particular have both religions.
So the first question, Mitch is asking about the 5 Buddhas of the 5 Buddha mandala, the 5, jinas, right? The Pancha Jina mandala. And so these yoginis are not related to that in any direct way, except insofar as any group of 5 could be, but no, absolutely not. So the female consorts in that place are actually never fully systematized, but Pandaravasini, can't remember all their names, right? But it's not them. And then Vajra Yogini, I think, tends to be recognized by both Hindus and Buddhists she has her own names there, like Guyeshwari or Vijeshwari, or Guyeshwari has 2 sites, one that's specifically Hindu and one that was mainly Buddhist, but is now increasingly attended by, Hindus can come more recognized, might be more accessible. So there's a kind of unifying consciousness there. So if you have multiple goddesses, of course, they are different faces of the same primordial goddess, right? So they would not say, oh, well, there's no relationship between Vasundara and Vajrayogini, but Vasundara is the Buddhist equivalent of Lakshmi. So often I think it's more that there's a correlate, there's a counterpart, rather than that they worship the same one. But there is overlap. It just depends on which deity. But Kumari is one who is recognized, like they recognize her, but as an embodiment of different goddesses, Durga and Vajrayogini. So for each case, you can look at it. Did I miss some? Sorry. Go on. Getting on now. We can't see both screens at once, so maybe that's.
Okay.
I think I might have seen a hand. No, it was just someone moving. Okay.
Anybody?
Well, that went a long time.
That's right. Yeah. Great. So, and thank you. So yes, I recorded this all, but in first few minutes in the beginning, I forgot to just that not been recorded. So, but auspicious, that is not recorded. We are auspicious. We do know everybody knows auspicious. So that's not been recorded. Anyhow, so I hope that I can share it easily because I'm not recording in the cloud. I'm recording in my computer. So it's make a little slightly difference to share with that file.
Yes.
I don't know how is that possible. Let's see.
It might have to be on a case-by-case basis via WeTransfer or a Dropbox or something, not just posted as is.
Right, yeah, we'll see. And also, so the Nittimala Mahabhyara, we have a firm right now with the non-profit organizations in Portland. So we try to bring the different scholars from the different part of the world. That's why the Zoom is the best way to bring it. And also we're thinking about a continuous doing this, continuous bringing the different scholars from a different part of the world and making the Zoom presentation, so this make us little easy, and everything's like financially be easy, everything's, rather than bringing them here, giving presentation, only Portland people. So it is open for a globally, internationally. So that's why I will love. So we bringing in more and more scholars. Next scholars, I'm also talking about bringing to one of the professor in Germany. the Manik Bajracharya, who's been there for a long period of times. And also the upcoming programs, we have also Sanskrit scholars coming, teachings about the Sanskrit. It's in the 1 month course in a short period of, short period of time. So yeah, if you want to join any class, and also I teach myself, it's coming up next week about alphabet, vowels and consonants. It's a part of the yogic practice, how it's connected to the body and what it does in the body. And if you pronounce that way, how that effect and what is the significance, what is the meaning behind there. So that's also I'm giving a course, that's also a month course. And also if you want to join, we have also the every Tuesday, which is also in the emails, every Tuesday we have a Dharani chantings with the mantras and Dharani chanting. It's open for everybody. And also we have actually sadhana practice, but the sadhana practice is particularly, if you're really interested in the meditations and doing a meditation, we have every Wednesday also the sadhana practice. It's not public, open for public, but if you are interested more into the meditation, then we can send you the link as well. And also every week in Hong Kong hosts, we have a Tina and Elijah, they host my teachings every Saturday in Hong Kong. So dance class, but but it's a 6 numbers coming up. Anybody interested in the dance, you're welcome to join. And yeah, what else I can say? Anything I miss? I don't know. So, and also thank you for all of you, and thank you, Miranda. So for giving wonderful talk and a wonderful talk about my cultures and my art and my Buddhisms back in Nepal. This makes me so happy that some from other part of the world studies the Nepal and present things in America. It is just amazing to see that, who's dedicated and motivated, and Miranda Shaw has been there in Nepal for many, many times. I was there many, many times before, I moved here. So this means like 30 years before. It's, so, and wonderful art to share, it's wonderful things to little bit to know about Nepal. It is, we've been there for centuries and centuries and centuries, and living with the happy and the joyness with the art and cultures and the practice and meditations and whatever we do in Nepal, day-to-day life. That's what we created here in Portland. We have a temple here. So that's what we do in the temple. Every day we do the rituals in the morning. First thing, wake up without eating, without drinking, we do the ritual. And then so we have if we have other things like now it's like I'm also creating lots of people's, we have a, birth to death ritual. We have a long, like a birth ritual, death ritual, young boy ritual, all get, people get all day in the ritual. So we have all the different rituals. That's also we do in our temple. So yeah, we try to preserve about a wonderful art about Nepal, because Nepal not saving that much, Nepal not happening that much. So we are preserving in this place. And we also have this library. This is our library. So we have a studies book from Nepal and every place. So that's also, but now it's a little bit, quarantine kind of situation. So we're not really opening for the public, but it is happening. And also the going lines with we have a 2-way page with the Nitya Mandala Mahabhyara as well. We have also the dance mandala way page. So today's a 2-way page. You can get more information about what our activities and what are we doing here. So, okay, so shall we say goodbye, good night, whatever we do.
Lovely to see everyone. Really
so
happy
to see Germany and Hong Kong.
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much.
So thank you for joining.
All right, good job.
Thoughts and yeah.
No one will know what a miracle it was.
Send me emails if you want to be on mailing list. So we, sending that basically that's where we reach to people. So
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you.
All right. Bye, lovely.